Remember the satisfying click of a VHS tape sliding into your VCR? In 1985, over 75% of American homes had a VCR. Fast forward to today, and these once essential machines have vanished from our living rooms. What other 80s necessities have become relics of the past? Let's rewind and take a look. All right, let's rewind to 1979. Sony just released a revolutionary device that would change the way we experience music forever: the Walkman. This compact cassette player wasn't just another gadget. It was a cultural phenomenon that defined the 1980s. Picture this. You're walking down the street, headphones on, your favorite tunes playing. Sounds normal today, right? But back then, it was mind-blowing. The Walkman allowed us to create our own personal soundtrack for life. Suddenly, your morning jog, bus commute, or even a trip to the grocery store could be accompanied by your favorite artists. The Walkman didn't just change where we listened to music, it changed how we experienced our surroundings. Imagine cruising down the street. Walk This Way by Run DMC blasting in your ears. The world became your music video. It was like having your own personal movie score for everyday life. But here's where it gets really interesting. Remember mixtapes? Creating the perfect mixtape was an art form, a labor of love that required time, patience, and a good ear. You had to carefully choose each song, making sure they flowed together just right. And don't even get us started on the challenge of timing it perfectly to fit on one side of a 45-minute cassette. These mixtapes became more than just collections of songs. They were expressions of personality, tokens of friendship, and even romantic gestures. How many of us spent hours crafting the perfect mixtape for our crush? It was a way to say "I like you" without actually saying it. But as beloved as the Walkman and mixtapes were, technology waits for no one. The 1990s saw the rise of CDs and digital formats. Suddenly, the idea of carrying around a stack of cassette tapes seemed clunky and outdated. CDs offered better sound quality and could hold more music. The writing was on the wall for our beloved Walkman. The shift to digital wasn't just about sound quality or storage capacity. It changed our relationship with music itself. No more carefully curated mixtapes or flipping the cassette to side B. We could now skip tracks at will, shuffle entire albums, and carry hundreds of songs in a device smaller than a Walkman. And just when we thought we had it all figured out, along came streaming services. Now, we have access to millions of songs at our fingertips. It's mind-boggling to think that the music library we carry in our phones today would have filled an entire room with cassette tapes back in the 80s. Remember Friday nights in the 80s? For many of us, they meant one thing: a trip to the video rental store. The VCR and VHS tapes had just revolutionized home entertainment, turning our living rooms into personal cinemas. No longer were we bound by TV schedules or movie theater showtimes. We could watch what we wanted, when we wanted. Picture this. You're walking into your local video store, that familiar smell of carpet and plastic hitting your nose. Rows upon rows of VHS tapes line the walls, their covers a kaleidoscope of movie posters and artwork. You'd spend ages browsing, reading the back of boxes, debating with family or friends about what to watch. It wasn't just about picking a movie. It was an event, a ritual that brought people together. The VCR itself was a marvel of technology. This boxy machine could record your favorite TV shows while you were out, a concept that seems quaint now but was mind-blowing at the time. Missed the latest episode of Miami Vice? No problem. Your trusty VCR had you covered. But for all its wonders, the VHS system had its quirks. Remember the infamous "Be Kind, Rewind" stickers? Forgetting to rewind a tape before returning it to the store could land you with a fine. And let's not forget the frustration of a tape getting stuck, or worse, eaten by the VCR. The horror of seeing your favorite movie turned into a tangled mess of magnetic tape. VHS tapes weren't known for their durability either. Each viewing degraded the quality slightly, and after a while, you'd start noticing lines and static creeping into your favorite scenes. Plus, these tapes were bulky. A modest movie collection could easily take up an entire bookshelf. As the 90s rolled around, a new format appeared on the horizon: DVDs. These shiny discs promised better picture quality, no rewinding, and extra features like director's commentaries and deleted scenes. Suddenly, our beloved VHS tapes started looking a bit outdated. DVDs addressed many of the issues we had with VHS. They were smaller, more durable, and offered crystal clear picture quality. No more tracking issues or degradation with repeated viewings. And let's not forget the joy of scene selection. No more fast-forwarding through the whole movie to find your favorite part. But even as we marveled at DVDs, technology kept marching forward. Blu-rays arrived, offering even better quality for those who wanted a true home theater experience. Yet, both DVDs and Blu-rays shared one thing with their VHS predecessors. They were still physical media that needed to be bought, stored, and sometimes returned to a store. Remember when finding a phone to make a call wasn't as simple as reaching into your pocket? Back in the 80s, payphones were as common as streetlights. These sturdy booths were our lifelines to the world, dotting street corners, shopping malls, and just about anywhere people gathered. Picture this. You're out and about, need to make an urgent call, but your house is miles away. What do? You'd scan the street for that familiar sight of a payphone booth. Once you found one, you'd fish through your pockets for loose change, hoping you had enough quarters to complete your call. The satisfying clink of coins dropping into the slot, the weighty feel of the handset, and that unmistakable dial tone. These were all part of the payphone experience. But payphones weren't just convenient, they were crucial. In emergencies, they could be literal lifesavers. No wonder Superman chose them as his favorite changing room. As the 80s rolled on, another communication device started beeping its way into our lives: the pager. These little gadgets were the height of professional cool. Doctors, emergency responders, and business executives all clipped them to their belts, ready to be alerted at a moment's notice. Pagers were simple, yet effective. When someone needed to reach you, they'd call a special number and leave a message. Your pager would beep or vibrate, displaying a phone number or a brief numeric message. It was then up to you to find the nearest phone and return the call. This system led to the development of a unique shorthand language. Long before texting abbreviations, pager users were coming up with creative ways to communicate through numbers alone. 911 meant emergency, while 143 stood for I love you. It was like a secret code for the tech-savvy. But let's be honest, both payphones and pagers had their limitations. With payphones, you needed to have change on hand, and you were stuck in one spot for the duration of your call. Not to mention the occasional frustration of finding a phone out of order or waiting in line to use one. Pagers, while portable, only allowed for one-way communication. You knew someone wanted to reach you, but you couldn't respond immediately. This often led to a frantic search for a phone, which, ironically, might have been a payphone. Enter the cell phone. The early models were far from the sleek devices we know today. Picture a brick with buttons and an antenna. That's pretty much what they looked like. These first-generation cell phones were bulky, expensive, and had limited battery life. But they offered something revolutionary: the ability to make and receive calls on the go without being tethered to a specific location. At first, cell phones were luxury items, mainly used by business executives and the wealthy. They were status symbols as much as they were communication devices. But as technology improved and prices dropped, cell phones began to make their way into more and more hands. The real game changer, though, was the smartphone. Suddenly, we had powerful computers right in our pockets. These devices didn't just let us make calls from anywhere. They gave us access to the internet, email, social media, and a world of apps. The smartphone revolution transformed how we communicate, work, and live. But phone books weren't just for personal use. Businesses relied on them heavily too. The phrase, "let your fingers do the walking," became a popular slogan, encouraging people to use the yellow pages for all their needs. It was like Google before Google existed, minus the instant results and cat videos. Speaking of business essentials, let's not forget the trusty fax machine. This noisy contraption was once the pinnacle of office technology. The distinctive screech of a fax connecting became the soundtrack of offices everywhere. "Fax me the details" was a common phrase, highlighting just how integral these machines were to professional communication. But as revolutionary as phone books and fax machines were, they had their drawbacks. Phone books were bulky, quickly outdated, and a nightmare for trees everywhere. Fax machines? Well, they had a special talent for paper jams, usually right when you needed to send something urgently. Now, let's shift gears from the office to the classroom. If you were a student in the 80s, you probably remember the Trapper Keeper. This wasn't just any school supply, it was a status symbol. With its vibrant designs and ability to hold multiple folders, the Trapper Keeper was the Swiss Army knife of school organization. Trapper Keepers were more than just functional. They were a way to express your personality. Whether you preferred neon geometrics, cute animals, or rad sports scenes, there was a Trapper Keeper for everyone. It was like carrying a piece of your identity to class every day. But even these beloved organizers had their issues. The plastic could crack, the Velcro would wear out, and let's be honest, keeping everything organized was still a challenge. Plus, there was always that one kid who'd open their Trapper Keeper too enthusiastically, sending papers flying everywhere. As we moved into the digital age, these once essential items started to show their limitations. Phone books became obsolete as online directories emerged. Why lug around a heavy book when you could find any number with a few keystrokes? Fax machines gradually gave way to email, which offered a faster, more reliable way to send documents. Even the mighty Trapper Keeper couldn't withstand the march of progress. As schools began to rely more on digital resources, the need for physical organizers diminished. Today's students are more likely to keep their notes on a tablet than in a neon-colored binder. The shift towards digital solutions started slowly, but gained momentum rapidly. Remember when search engines first appeared? They seemed almost magical, offering instant access to a world of information. Email revolutionized communication, making faxes seem clunky and outdated by comparison. Today, we live in a digital landscape that would have seemed like science fiction back in the 80s. Need a phone number? Just ask your smartphone. Want to send a document? Email it in seconds. Need to organize your schoolwork? There's an app for that. Search engines have become our go-to for all kinds of information, not just phone numbers. Cloud storage has replaced the need for physical filing systems. Productivity apps help us stay organized in ways that would make our Trapper Keeper toting younger selves green with envy.